313-868-6612. That's 313-868-6612. Executive producer R.J. Watkins. Program director Henry Tyler. 107.5 FM WGPR HD2. RadioWeCanSee.com. WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to the Highland Park Spotlight. I'm your host, Kisha B, and it is great being here again today. I know the background looks a little different. I know you like, what in the world? This is completely insane. This is not where she normally is. I know. But, you know, I like change. I like to switch it up every now and then. And for those who don't know, radio is my first love, so you know that's where my heart has always been. But it is so wonderful to be here again today, and I brought back somebody that is of great importance here in the city of Highland Park, because we've been dealing with this massive issue for so long. And so I wanted to bring him back so that we could dive a little bit deeper into what has been going on when it comes to the water crisis that's been happening here in the city of Highland Park. And so I am excited to bring him back on with me in the new area, in this new section that y'all are not accustomed to. He's not either, so we're gonna see how he adapts to this atmosphere. But I am excited to have Mr. Damon Garrett in studio with me. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It is a pleasure of having you here.
Thank you. Happy to be here again. Like to be here as many times as I can to get people up to speed on what's happening with water.
Absolutely. So I do want to just do a recap, because you was here a few weeks ago and we talked about this situation as far as the lawsuit between the city of Highland Park and the Great Lakes Water Authority. And so we know that this has been ongoing for quite some time, because it's been it's been more than 10 years, we can say that, right? And so we've been in litigation for quite some time. It's been a lot of back and forth. It's been a lot of misconceived things. It's been a lot of confusion. There's been some ups, there's been some downs. And so I want to definitely hit on that one more time for those that may have missed the show before, right? And also just to kind of clear up any misunderstanding. So the city of Highland Park has been paying their water bill for all of those said years, right? And can you just really hit on for a quick moment the kind of explain where confusion may have come from?
Absolutely. So I think the confusion stemmed from the number that was being thrown around, the $54 million in debt that the city owed or allegedly owed. And that debt accumulated because there were contracts back from 1983 and 1996 that the city was adhering to and paying. And those the price of those contracts, or the price of water, was significantly less than what GLEWA established when they came into existence in 2015.
Okay.
So that accumulation over a number of years is how we got to the $54 million in debt amount that was out there.
Okay. So just to clarify what I just heard, I want to, make sure I put it in layman's terms, make sure, because I know, you're good at what you do. So I'm going to give you your props and your flowers. You're great at what you do.
Okay.
But also I just wanted to kind of break this down for myself and for anyone else that may be listening. So we had a deal. The city of Highland Park had a deal, right? And were instructed in that deal to pay, was it, how much?
Okay.
It,
So let's, what you might hear is 65 cents on the dollar. Okay.
Okay, yes.
So it was 65% is what their original contract was based on. The difference between 65% and 100% is how that debt started to accumulate year after year after year.
Okay.
So over a course of 5, 6, 7 years, you can imagine how that debt started to tally up, and that's really what the $54 million was. It was not a lack of paying the bill; it was a discrepancy in Highland Park believing they had a contract that they were adhering by and paying, and Glee was saying, no, you actually owe us more money. So that was the dispute, and that was the amount of debt that accumulated.
Okay, perfect. So that extra money came from them wanting the other.
Yeah. So they established, when they came into existence, they established the rates that they felt Highland Park should be paying, as well as other communities, and the difference in the rate that they established and the rate that was in the contract is what created the difference between the 65% and the 100%, let's say.
Okay, all right. So I thank you for clarifying that for me. And so now there's been this new bill that came out, right? Because I know that there's been some confusion as to why is the bill going up. And to clarify that as well, that is not the actual lawsuit or the levy or anything like that. That has nothing to do with that $54 million, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when this the state of Michigan stepped in as a part of the settlement agreement, the $54 million was being wiped away. So what could have happened is that $54 million could have been placed on the taxes, and then that would impact people's property. So that the state didn't want that, Highland Park didn't want that. So part of the settlement was that $54 million was wiped away. So that is not in the increase. The increase in the bill is solely the difference between the current amount that GLEWA wants and the difference in those contracts. So the amount that Highland Park used to pay was around $3.2 million, and now it's $5.8. Okay.
Oh wow.
So that delta is what the rate increase reflects, not the debt from prior years.
Okay. So the debt has nothing to do with the increase, and it is just what GLEWA. So how did GLEWA come up with these charges? Because that just seems kind of that seems like a lot for a small community of this size, right? We're 2.97 square miles, and it used to be 50,000 people in Highland Park, but that was years ago. You know, that's not what it is today, and we're probably 10,000 and under now. So how is it that they can take that? How can they come up with that in their in their frame of mind? Because to me, it seemed like it would go down instead of up, because our, you know, as far as the population decreased, right? So can you kind of talk to that a little bit?
Absolutely. You're thinking really logical. That's your main problem. You're trying to be logical right now. So,
I am.
So what we have is GLEWA is this term I'm going to use lightly, but could be perceived to be a utility monopoly. Okay.
Okay.
And so currently they're unregulated utility, unlike consumers, unlike DTE. They're able to kind of move and do the things that they want to do without regulation. So they are a growing utility. They're trying to sell more water, and they have what they believe is a revenue requirement. So they say, we want to make this amount of revenue. And what they do is they trade bonds publicly, okay? And this is how they pay for their infrastructure improvements. So if they want to do $1 billion of infrastructure improvements, they basically know what they want to do, and they disperse that cost amongst all their wholesale customers. Now, what Highland Park is, Highland Park, Detroit, and one other, we're in this category called D+, because we're not a metered customer. So they take these rates, right, and the wholesale customers get a portion of them, and then the D+ customers get everything else. So, and the people in the D+ category, Detroit, Highland Park, those communities mirror each other. They look similar. But if you look at Macomb, if you look at Oakland, you look at some of the other wholesale customers, they don't look like Detroit. They don't look like Highland Park. So when they're doing their revenue requirement and they're dispersing their costs amongst their customers, the wholesale customers get a portion of it, and then whatever's left, it goes into the D+ category.
Wow.
Yeah.
So for those that may not understand what unregulated mean, can you explain that terminology?
Yeah, so unregulated means that there is no higher entity outside of GLEWA that requires them to do certain things and to meet certain standards, okay? So they have a board, and the GLEWA board, they vote on things, and they try to have a democracy within GLEWA, but there's not a third-party entity that says you cannot do that. So when DTE decides they're going to raise the rates, they go to MPSC and say this is what we need to do, and MPSC has a board that's a third-party entity that holds DTE accountable and says you can or cannot raise the rates this amount, you can or cannot do this. And that is the layer, that's the next step. And GLEWA, they've been in existence for just under 10 years now, but I think eventually they will be regulated. We just haven't got to that point.
Wow. Okay, so with them being unregulated, they can charge what they want and do whatever they want, basically,
right.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I don't want people to think that GLEWA just goes into a dark room and makes up things. That's not what they do. But how they choose to allocate those costs, because they provide water for a lot of those communities, right, including Highland Park right now. So they have a formula, and they have financial analysts that try to break down things, but there's nobody to say this shouldn't be $10, it should be $9.50, right? So they have the leeway to kind of maneuver in the way they want to. I'm not saying that they totally make things up, but they do those things in their benefit.
Okay.
Because I don't want people to think that those people, they know what they're doing, but they just don't have a level of accountability that says you will do this. It's like saying, hey, if mom's not going to be home and she says the curfew is 11 and she's still at work, well, I might be out till 11:30. But if I know mom's going to call and be home at that time, I'm going to be in the house at 11.
Right.
We don't know when mama's coming home. So your curfew is 11, but you're out at 1, 12:30. That's what I mean when I say they're unregulated. So I don't want people to think that they're just making things up, but they don't have somebody over them that's going to say, why is the increase that amount? Why are you doing that? Why are you not doing this? Why did you put more in the D+ category than you put in the other wholesale customer category? Nobody's asking that question. They're able to say, hey, we want this over here, and we want the remainder over here, and we'll let them figure out how they're going to pay for it.
Okay. That's so interesting. It's kind of it's messed up when you really think about it, because I know that Highland Park just isn't the only community. We'll get into that in a minute, but now you went to, it was Water Day, I believe, at Faith Tab.
Yeah.
And how did that go?
It went pretty good. It went pretty good. Pretty good turnout for a Friday night. We had that little snowstorm that hit us on Friday, and so, but it still was pretty packed. There was a lot of people that showed up and asked some questions, and they were mainly kind of what we were talking about before, is what's going on with this bill, right? They still, people, I'm realizing that people still don't, not only do they not understand the things in the bill, but they don't understand like the units of water, and we just need to have more education on the bill in itself, and not only what do these things mean, but like when something doesn't look right with your bill. And a lot of
Right.
people, a lot of seniors, they just pay their bills because, like, my mother's almost 80. She's just going to pay the bill. The bill comes, she's going to write the check, whatever it is, she's going to write it. But she might not understand that, hey, I have a leak, I have a running toilet, and I only use, it's just me, I only use 2 units of water. Why do I have 15 units in my bill? Well, obviously there's something wrong, but she might just pay the bill. And what I'm encouraging people to do, because you had the rate increase, you know, people are very upset. I'm
Yeah.
encouraging them to say, if you see something outside of the rate increase that doesn't look right, to come down to the customer service center so we can look your account up and says, you know what? We know you weren't using water at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. That toilet's stuck. We had the grandbabies over. They went upstairs. Nobody uses that bathroom up there. They flushed the toilet. It's running. We don't even go upstairs. So it's running and running and running and running. And that's going to show up in your bill. And then you're looking at the rate increase going, wow, my bill quadrupled.
Okay.
Well, you know, the rate was generally $40 for most people. And then if you had that larger meter like we talked about, it was a little bit more, maybe like more like $100, right? So if you're seeing 2, 3, something's wrong. And people think a leak is, there's no water on the ground. Well, that's, you know, if that shower head is dripping, that's a leak, right? If that toilet is running all through the night, that's a leak. That's water usage, and that will show up in your bill. So then you're going, my bill really doesn't look right. And we were encouraging people to look at those units. You know, if you use 1 or 2, then your bill shouldn't be 7 units. And you should be on the phone, like, or coming down there saying, hey, what is going on?
Something is wrong.
Something is not right. Because we don't think that people should be obligated to be paying for that if they don't know about it. But the sooner that they look at that, they can notify us and we can rectify that, because we're still getting charged for that. That still shows up in our GLEWA bill. And people don't want to pay for a running toilet, but if something doesn't look right, you should call immediately. If you get a plumber, get it fixed, whatever, we could try to work with you on an account because you didn't know. We don't want to penalize people for things that they don't know, but we want to encourage people to get more involved with their bill so that we can get that stuff resolved, because we're going to be expected, the city is going to be expected to pay those bills,
Right.
whether people's toilets are running or not. They want
That's
their money.
very
They
true.
want that money.
Yeah, GLEWA want their money. They say, I don't care. Pay me.
Right.
But so when a person gets their bill in the mail and they take that bill and they open it, now where would they notice? Because, okay, so you mentioned the units,
Yep.
right? So because of this increase, they might not necessarily understand, you know, that where that unit is, or like you mentioned, the size of the pipe that go into the house and how much water is
Right.
being pushed through the what is it, the I forget the term for it.
The meter or the service line?
The service line.
Yeah, the service line.
So I know there was the 1 inch,
And the 5/8
the 5/8
and the 1 inch.
and the 1 inch, and so you know, those are cost different, right? And then also with the increase, and just how can a person really differentiate between making sure that if it's the units, is it just the units that they should be looking at? Or what if it's something outside? You know, like, how do they figure out, do I have a leak for real?
Okay.
Because, you know, we have so many points in our home that could be an issue that we don't know about. But how do we look at our bill and say, okay, now that don't look right?
Okay. So that's a very good question. So the first thing is look at go to the obvious, the dollar amount. You go to the
Okay.
dollar amount and says, man, I'm used to paying $60. This bill is $200, right? So that's the first thing. But then don't go to somebody's overbilling me or somebody's overcharging me, right? That's the first place people want to go. What are they doing down at the water department? They're putting this money in their pocket, all of this. So first thing, you want to identify the problem. So this is what I normally pay. This is what this bill is. There's a problem. The
Right.
next thing you should do is go to the consumption part of the bill. The consumption is where the units are actually, that's where it says 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit. So
Okay.
if you see a big balance at the bottom that's larger than you normally see, and then you look up at the consumption and say, man, and maybe people never paid attention to this. So this is
And
good,
that's the
education,
thing.
right?
Right.
You look at that consumption and you see, man, 8 units of water, like, well, 1 unit of water is 748 gallons, 1 unit. So 8 units, if it's just me and you in the house, We're not using that. So then ding, ding, ding. So now I got the dollar amount, I got the consumption amount. Now I'm seeing that there's a problem. The next thing you do is you either bring that down to the water department or you call and say, well, before you do that, then I would go look at the month previous bill.
Okay.
And look at the same things, the dollar amount, the units. If you see 2 units on the previous bill and you see 8 units on the current bill, okay, and it's just me and you. Nothing. Thanksgiving didn't happen. We didn't have, people from out of town. Nothing changed. We got a problem. There's 6 units difference between this month's bill and last month's bill. I didn't use that. That we got to get to the bottom of that. That's when you make that phone call. So it's just a couple. The bill's got a lot of stuff on it, right?
Absolutely.
It's got charts on it.
It's overwhelming for
billing. You look at like 12 different things. It's like that consumption.
Okay.
Because that is actually what I'm actually the unit that's assigned to that, the dollar amount, like you charging me $4.89. That's not going to change, right? But that unit is what fluctuates. And then if you have people over and the bill went up, but it shouldn't like triple. If we have some people over for a couple days or whatever, or my cousin they wanted their washing machine broke, they need us to wash a few loads of clothes, okay? So you should see a little spike, but you shouldn't see a significant spike. So when you see that significant spike, that's when you know you have a problem. And what we can do is we can run what's called a continuous water report. So we get readings every minute, every 5 minutes, every account. So we could come and say, Kisha B, let me see, okay, you at this address, we can run your report and see what your water usage was from 12 a.m. to the whole 24 cycle. And we can see 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. You probably sleep. And then that continued over 3 days, and then you'll see it magically just drops off. So you know that there was a valve stuck or something. The toilet was running, and then it fixed itself. That gasket was stuck, and then that gasket got unstuck because all of a sudden, how were you having continuous usage over 5 days? You didn't even know about it, and then it just fixed itself. You didn't call the plumber, nothing. It just magically, but if you don't see that report, you're not going to know. And we can print that report, and we can sit down and show you, hey, this is what happened. This is, and that's that education piece. We're not here to penalize people. We're here to help people understand the bill, understand these charges, understand when things are not right, and get them fixed ASAP.
Yeah, okay. And I think that's one of the biggest things. At Water Day, were you able to kind of explain that a little bit or no? Because if not, I think it would be great to actually put together an event specifically around that itself and really kind of just talk about and have people bring in their bills and, okay, let's do a session to where, okay, let's really talk through what a bill looks like, how to differentiate between that consumption, between units, and really break it down because people perish for the lack of knowledge.
That's
and
true.
So I want to make sure that everyone is overly confident in looking at their bill just so that they can kind of feel a little bit better knowing, okay, now I know what I'm looking at. Now I feel confident in saying if I point out something on my bill that's not right, I know it's not right. So when I get to you and I call, I can say, hey, I looked over the last 3 months of my bill and I realized something is different. And so considering the fact that we had this class and you showed us where consumption and everything was, I know that there's a problem. Can you help me figure this out?
I love that idea, and I think it would be just to go through every item. And so the other benefit of that is that if rates increase again or something else changes, you know this bill. I know everything on this bill, and I know exactly where the rate changed, and I know exactly what's going on.
Exactly.
But what I'm realizing with the rate increase, because, I think that got people's attention. It was not done intentionally, but people are looking at the bill more than they ever have. Now, a lot of the stuff on the bill has been this way for years, but that doesn't mean people were studying the bill and understood the bill. So where we are now, we have an opportunity now to really go through all of those things. And I think, when we talk about what the water ready to serve charge is and what the difference is with consumption, and then you see if the rate increased, but you see like a lot of things, people say the water rates went up. Well, the water consumption rate actually went down.
Right. I remember we talked about that.
But the ready to serve went up, and some people are like,
Yeah.
well, I don't even know what ready serve is. Why would I even look at that? I don't even know what that means. In that class, we would cover sewer ready to serve, water ready to serve. We used to get questions, what's the billing charge? It seems like you're just putting this $5 billing charge on here. What is that for? So people don't understand that when we run the bills, we have to run a batch billing of everything. We have to mail those out. We have to put those, we have to send it to an outside company to post those. So they don't understand the administrative task that goes with preparing a bill, dumping the data out of the Neptune website. All of that is part of that billing charge. The software that for us to have to look at that continuous use, all of that is a part of that billing charge. If people knew that, then they would understand. Because right now they're just looking like, well, I understand consumption. I don't know what this water ready serve is. I don't know what this billing charge is. It seems like you're just overcharging me. But if they knew, oh yeah, he said that we have these three things and this makes up the billing charge, then we can have a much more positive conversation about the bill.
Yeah.
And then when we go to talk about rate increases, people really know that this is the area that's really going to increase, and this is why. This is my I remember for years people didn't understand, because we used to just have a water and sewer and no drainage. Man, that still messes people up. Like, well, I got a vacant lot. I shouldn't even get a bill, right? Why am I getting a bill? People still don't understand that when the snow melts or when it rains,
That water runoff.
and it goes into the sewer, and then we get charged for that. So people need some education so they understand what that drainage charge means and why it's on the bill. Because before it was just water and sewer, and then we couldn't really, we solved some lawsuits by breaking out the drainage, because we went back to Glewa and said, hey, you know, this is the sewage part of the bill, this is the stormwater part of the bill. And that's when we started to understand that, hey man, there's a whole thing with this consumption on the sewer part that is a big, that, like we talked about last time, is much bigger than maybe the water. But people get tied up on the water. But it's also, the sewer is also a very important conversation that people need to understand too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's going to be a great event. So we need to plan that.
Yeah, we need to get it on the calendar. We definitely
need to plan that. So I know we're getting ready to go into the second half of this, but I know we got to do a commercial. But I do want to kind of hit when we come back on a couple of different things, because Highland Park is not alone in this fight.
Right.
Highland Park is not alone in this fight. And I did some research because I was curious, because I find that over in the state of Michigan, and not just in the state of Michigan, but across the country, in small little pockets, there's a lot of different things happening. And I have to say this, Highland Park is not alone, because I researched, and there's so many other cities, especially here in Michigan, that's experiencing some of the same disparities that Highland Park is facing. And I do want to hit on that when we come back. You are watching the Highland Park Spotlight. I'm your host, Kisha B. Keep it locked right here. Don't go nowhere. I promise you, the conversation is interesting. We're going to learn a lot and hear a lot. So stay tuned. Highland Park Spotlight, Kisha B.
Platforms are engaged. Copy. Get ready to launch your show or product. Periscope ready. We're 5x5 ready to launch. Copy that. Trend worldwide across all major platforms.
Ignition. 3, 2, 1.
The world is waiting. Watkins Broadcasting. More than just TV. Have you ever wanted your own TV show? Have you dreamed of showcasing your talent for the world to see? Well, now you can. Have your own TV show. You can have your own 30-minute show. Not only will you be seen in the Detroit area, but you can be viewed worldwide. For more information, call 313-868-6612. Visit our studios and receive a free TV interview to promote your business, church, or organization by appointment only.
Welcome, Judge Mathis. Thanks for coming to share an important message with the Wayne County taxpayers.
Well, thank you for allowing me to help, because Treasurer Shabri wants to work with Wayne County homeowners to keep families in their homes and prevent foreclosure.
If you're having trouble making your property tax payments, let us know. We have many resources to help.
Already in the payment plan? It's important you stay in good standing.
Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com.
Watch WHPR and TV 33 when you want, where you want, how you want. WHPR is now in your pocket. Download our free app by going to the App Store or Google Play and enter WHPR TV in the search engine. And there we are. You can download WHPR TV or radio. You heard about it. Now come be a part of it. Roku, Detroit, worldwide. Approximately 8 million viewers.
Welcome back to the Highland Park Spotlight. I'm your host, Kisha B, and we are, don't say it, in a different studio. I know. But we are having a great conversation. Damon Garrett from the Water Department is here in studio with me today, and we are having a very in-depth conversation about the different things that's been happening here in the city of Highland Park. So if you caught the first half, that's good. If you missed it, I'm sorry. Catch the replay. But we are going to kind of go into the second half of this. And what I wanted to just reiterate is the fact that Highland Park is not alone when it comes to certain disparities when it comes to the city, right? So I wanted to kind of touch on that issue because I did some research. And what I found was disheartening, okay? And we all know the water situation that happened in Flint. We're all aware of that, how there was lead in the lines, that there was a lot of infrastructure issues, how, you know, aging pipes, all of this, okay? But I did some research, and literally last year, okay, Benton Harbor, activists put on spotlight for looming drinking water financial crisis in a new report. Water system issues that are immediate health risks that puts Muskegon Heights under state order. There's so many topics and headlines out here in regards to water crisis in other states, in other cities in this state. And what I found is that, now, I'm not going to say every last one of them, but quite a few of them are mostly African American cities, and that is what hurts the most. Highland Park is not alone in this fight, and we got to figure something out here because this is ridiculous. The reports that Benton Harbor talks about is the 2021 issue was high levels of lead in the water, which, like Flint before, you know, why is it that it's mostly in African American communities? And I said this before, and I'll say it again. I don't care who said something about it. Anytime you want to take a place out or take over a place, you go after the resources. Mm-hmm. You take out the resources, because then there is nothing left for the people to stand on, and people have to disperse and move out. And that is how the communities can be beautified in the way that they want it to be beautified. And by they, I ain't gonna say no names, but we know what they mean. So it's just heart-wrenching to see this stuff happen across the state of Michigan, and not just in the state, but across the country, in these small pockets of communities where there are black and brown people. And so Muskegon Heights, Benton Harbor, Flint are all cities facing high rates relative to income, aging infrastructure, and increased costs. It's so much that's happening. And I wanted to bring that up because I know that you're with MCA. And although you have the contract here with Highland Park is not the only city that you deal with. Have you seen these issues in other cities outside of Highland Park?
Well, now, Kisha.
I know. Yep, I'm going there. Because here's the thing. If we don't tell the truth and shame the devil, who going to do it for us?
Well, it's funny. In those communities that you brought up, we're working in Muskegon Heights. We're working in Flint.
Oh, I didn't know you was working in Muskegon Heights.
We're working in Muskegon Heights. We're working in Flint. We've done work in Ben Harbor. So what I can tell you is that your assessment is very accurate. And where it really starts is once you see those schools go away, once those school systems disperse, happened in Flint, happened in Highland Park, some of them have gone away in Muskegon Heights. You see those schools go away, that's the beginning of some bad things. Also, big business leaves. Chrysler left Highland Park, GM left Flint, Whirlpool out in Ben Harbor. So you have a combination of the school system crumbling or deteriorating. You have a combination of big business leaving. So you got jobs leaving. You've got social class people. All of that stuff's leaving. And what's left is property and infrastructure. And you don't have the people who have the expertise to manage those things because a lot of those people have left. So it's this cyclical thing that does happen in brown communities all across the country. And the one thing that I always think about is how does this stop? Okay, so those things happen, right? Sometimes they can be prevented, sometimes they can't. But the thing for me is getting the proper representation, because you said what they want or what they want it to look like, what they think beautiful looks like, and what it was. Is having people in place that understand what those communities stand for and helping them get back on their feet. And that's what we've been doing in Highland Park for over 10 years. That's how we were able to get through this lawsuit. And it's a battle every day. It's going to be a battle. People like, hey, the council approved the contract on the 18th. Gleewa approved it 3 days later. And everybody think it's over. No. It's about to get really, really, really raw now, right? It was a fight to get the contract signed, but do you know the amount of agreements and the amount of things that they now say that we have to do? It's pages and pages and pages and pages of things on top of things that you have to do all these things, and we're going to put more on your plate because we know you have less financial resources. So we keep adding things to the list, and we keep taking from you till you wave the white flag. So I was happy to see that we finally are going to maybe move past some of the litigation, but in the back of my mind, I was knowing that this is beginning. Because anytime that we step out of place or anytime anything happens, they're going to be threatening to go back to the taxes and going back to all of that. So where we're going now is being able to document all these things, cash flow, the city's cash flow, all of that has to be documented so that we could push that back across the table. Because if not, they're still trying to take. It's not done. It's never going to be done. Until there's people in places higher than U.S. Senate, other places where there's enough people that understand this is not going to stop. This is not going to stop. And in Ben Harbor, you talk about they want you to consolidate your water plant. In Muskegon Heights, they want you to consolidate your water plant. In Highland Park, they took it away. I mean, there's a lot of the same type of things. We could go over to New Jersey. I mean, we could talk about this in a lot of different places. It's the same thing. And until we can really get the proper representation and the people want to fight back, but they don't know how to fight back. They don't have the people who will help them fight back, and that's what we need. That's really what we need to stop, because some people would say it's a blueprint. It's a blueprint.
Yeah.
So I would like to say, I think, the indicators, Like, so we look at these community economic development departments. I mean, that is the business end of any city. That's where we're
True.
attracting tax base. That's where we're bringing things. That's where we have a little bit of control of what we want to see. So you start to see people leaving. You got to look to that community economic development department and make sure that you got a strong foothold there, and if somebody has a business mind that can get this tax base and control what you said, what the beautiful looks like, you could do that in your community economic development department. And people think about the infrastructure. Well, it's a business aspect to that where you talk about abatements. So we go and we abate a property. Well, then the people ain't gonna have to pay taxes for 10 years. And you want jobs, but if you abate that property, you're taking the ability for the city to be able to generate revenue, which we need revenue to be able to run. So we need people to come and say, you want to be here? We'll give you a great deal, but we're not gonna make it free. That's a business, but we get desperate to where we don't know any better. Our heart's in the right spot, and we give somebody an abatement. But you talk about how many hundreds of thousands of dollars over a period of years that could be in the city's general fund to help keep things the way they need to be. It goes away because somebody's going to bring 200 jobs here, and then those people don't even live in the city. They come to work
from outside.
Here, right? So that doesn't help us. So that's where we need some education about understanding the business side of all of this stuff that we're dealing with, and know that we do have some control, but we just need to know what it is and be able to leverage it better.
Absolutely, and you hit on something, which is representation, right? And I wasn't gonna do this, but okay.
But you're gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it only because it's been put on my heart to do it. But a while ago, right? I'm a woman of faith, but a while ago, the Lord had told me to go online and talk about being in position, right? And He said that people need to start getting into position. And I'm like, what does that mean when you say get into position? And He said He's calling His people to get into certain arenas that they normally wouldn't get into before. People complain about, cops this, cops that, but why not become one to change it from the inside? Right? If you talk about teachers this, why not become one to be an example of how it should be and to help change it from the inside out? Because just being on the outside complaining is not going to change anything. So we have to actually get into positions to actually invoke the change that we say that we want. And so you hit on the fact that we need representation, but if nobody is encouraged to actually get into these positions to be that representation, we're going to keep seeing the same thing happen over and over and over and over again. And I just commend you because you guys stepped out. Because when you go into a room, I'm pretty sure it's not too many people that look like you in that room.
All the time, everywhere.
And you're representing these smaller Black communities, and I'm just being real. You're representing these smaller Black communities and trying to be a positive influence to help bring resources and help into those communities, and to stop was actually a hostile takeover, if I just be honest.
Well, we got to go back to some things that we haven't done in a long time, and in order to get that representation, we got to become role models again for the youth, right? They got to see somebody that, hey, is running a company or running a water department, and say, hey, I want to be like that, and I want to aspire to be that, and know that there's a hand that's going to reach in and pull them up. That part I think is gone. We have to be visible. There are leaders. There are, but we're dispersed so far few between. We need to go back to show these people, to get in the community. One of the things we do in Highland Park, we're in the community.
That's right.
I wasn't obligated to go to Faith Tabernacle on Friday. It's Friday on 6 p.m. It was NCAA basketball on. What am I doing at Faith Tabernacle? You know what I'm doing? I'm talking to the residents and trying to educate them on something that if I'm not doing it, who's doing it?
Yeah.
And that's where we got to go back and because then if we know a teacher if we know a water director, if we know a mayor, if all of those, we know a U.S. Senate member, now we can get back connected, and then we can create that network so that we can pull our people back up. Like, we're so separated. We're everywhere, but we're not anywhere together. We're everywhere separate,
that's
but
good.
nowhere connected.
Yeah.
So I think that is how we're going to get that representation, and that's kind of throwback, old school. You know, people used to come speak to our classes and stuff like that. I don't know if you have that anymore.
Door. Shout out to my engineer. Tim is the absolute best. Murray Wright pilot, although Murray Wright ain't around no more. That was my school. That was his school. We out here. Pilots.
Okay. All right.
WHBR, we here. But, you know, it was really heartbreaking to look up this information and see
Same thing.
that this is happening. I don't want to say everywhere, but, you know, when it comes to black and brown communities, it's happening everywhere in those communities. And that's
real. I mean, that's facts.
Because, you know, how can I know representation is a big portion, but how can we come together with other communities to really bring the spotlight to what's really taking place? Because somebody somewhere got to hear this, got to see this, and got to know, like, hey, I think if we all collectively came together and was like, hey, over here, we got these issues, and it's happening here. We got the same issues. Oh, we got the same issues too. And if it starts spreading across Michigan, next thing you know, it spreads across Ohio, it spreads across Illinois, you know, like, this deserves some type of recognition to say what is happening and what can we do to undergird and help these communities instead of hurting them. Because you hit on economic development. It's people that hold on to properties until the property is just the structure itself. You know, and then once everybody move out, oh, now I'm going to fix it up. Oh, no, I was just waiting on funds to come in. That's a lie. We know that you're holding on to these properties so that way everybody else, because the resources has left the neighborhood, everybody is moving. So now you get to build it up the way you want it to, in your mind, how you see beautification. But we want the same things. Why not work together with those that's there? So I know I had to vent on that a little bit because
cool.
it makes me mad at how this stuff is happening in our communities. How can we raise the flag to say and come together to say, hey, it's not just Highland Park. What can we do?
Well, I'll tell you some things that we definitely have to do is easy. Is we have to stop fighting each other in public. Okay?
Ooh.
Yeah, we need to stop that. And, you know, we're talking about emotional things. You're talking about property, water, but in public, we need to be unified, right?
Yeah.
And then after we get out of whatever public forum, you want to cuss me out? I'm good with that. Like, I understand that, and you're a human being. But when we do it in public, they look at us saying, you're not unified. This is a clown show. You know, you might think something different than I think, and we're arguing in a public forum in front of the other people. And they're saying, why should we give funding? This is right for a takeover. Why should we help this? They can't even get along. That we need to stop, and we can stop that. You know, sometimes when you hear something you don't like in public, we kind of gotta say, okay, Dan, let me talk to you after this, and say, Kisha, we really gotta fix this, and this is what we're gonna do. And then when the lights are on, the cameras are on, we're unified. Because when we're fighting in public, then it makes their day. And even if we don't agree, I don't want to make your day in any kind of way. I really don't. I really don't want to do anything that you want me to do. So you know what? Me and Kisha can have words outside of this, and we will have words, and we'll get it resolved, and we'll move forward. And what you're talking about is teamwork, representation. And in order to be on a team, I might not agree with everything that you have, that you believe in on this particular topic. But you know what? I'm going to ride with you because we're on the same team. And then you got my back on the next topic, right? And you like, man, you know what? But
Yeah.
I know you rode with me on the last topic, so I'm riding with you on this one, right?
Yeah.
So we look out for each other, and we for the few of us that's out there, I'm fortunate to have this platform that you bring me to. I'm fortunate to be in Highland Park, and I take that very seriously. So I try to do everything I can to represent us in the right way. And don't think, in my car I'm not saying certain things, or, oh, I am, right? But I'm not doing it in public.
Right.
And so we just got to be unified in public and just and not be crabs and that kind of thing. I think if we do that presents a much different picture than we arguing about property, we arguing about who owns this, who owns that.
Yeah.
People not current on bills, but arguing about property, like that kind of stuff. We can't do that.
Yeah.
We got to be clean.
I agree.
Because the stakes are high for us, higher than most.
And the thing is, Highland Park is in such a prime location.
It is
Oh
prime.
my
Woodward, I mean,
goodness!
it's a gold mine.
It's, ooh. And so, and not just Highland Park, Pontiac. Pontiac is
yeah.
They got some land,
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, if we can just kind of get everybody together, whether it's Muskegon Heights, Benton Harbor, Flint, Pontiac, Royal Oak Township, all these small black communities, black and brown communities, pull everybody together and really just make it known. Pull in the media. Shoot, somebody got to air it. Because if everybody is coming together, the media is going to want to know why.
That's true.
Why is it that everybody is coming together? What is the issue? What is happening? Like, it creates a spotlight. Next thing you know, you never know, CNN might pick it up and be like, what's happening? Why are all these communities coming together like this? What is happening that it's causing the light bulb to come on, and now all of a sudden we see this unification that we didn't see before? Because, like you said, not arguing out in public and being on with one accord, and behind scenes like, look, okay, now we can duke this out. I don't like you. You don't like me. But we gonna get this done, because it's not just affecting us here, it's affecting everybody else. Because I think we also get too hung up on the fact that we're in a power seat, and a seat of power and of example, that we think about just us, but not realizing that our purpose is not just for us, it's for everybody attached to us. So it's not about us. We got to help folks. And this has just been so frustrating, because the more and more I think about it and I look at it, we got to do something. So I don't know what you're doing in Benton Harbor and Muskegon Heights, but help them just like you helping us. But we need to take this on a whole national level. We need to raise awareness about this. Because this is a lot. And I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you got the energy. But I ask God to give you more, because you're going to need it. Because this is not easy. And to go up against Great Lakes Water Authority as a person of color and as a person in your seat of MCA and all of your colleagues, more power to you. More power to you. So I know that the litigation, is it over?
So both boards, Highland Park and Gleewood, have unanimously voted to sign the contract. So Highland Park did it on Monday of the 18th, and then Gleewood did it on Thursday the 21st last week. So that's what I know. I have not seen the contract with actual signatures on it, but
Right.
I know that those governing bodies have voted in favor of moving forward with those contracts, which is great. So I'm hoping that we're going to see some actual signed agreements in the next week or two.
Okay.
And then the heavy lifting starts. So then we got to jump into all these meters and all of this stuff. We need to get these meters in the ground, the big ones, the master meters, and the sewer meters. We got to get those in the ground ASAP, especially as it's starting to rain and the weather's starting to change. We have a combined sewer system, so we want to be able to capture what we call the wet weather season, which is April, most of April, late March, most of April, because that's all that drainage and stuff that we argue about is in our combined sewer system. So you need to look at it in the spring, the summer, and the fall. So you have wet weather going from winter to spring. You have wet weather going from fall to winter. So like right around after Halloween, it starts raining a lot. And then we have the dry season, which is June to September. So when we have this combined sewer system, that rainwater we're talking about, see high levels in the spring, high levels in the fall, low levels in the summer. But we need that data to go back and say, this is how much water's actually leaving Highland Park, and show them that we didn't just do it in the summer and says, no, nothing really leaves. That we says, no, we took all the seasons. We took spring, which is wet. We took summer's bone dry, and we took fall that's not quite as wet as spring, but we took both of the wet seasons and the dry season. So this is a representation of the water that leaves our community, and we have it metered. And then we look, and then just like when we talked about the customer bill, what are we gonna do? We're gonna look at the community bill. So we're gonna look at that dollar amount, and we're gonna look at those units.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna have the same conversation at the community to Gleeville level that we're talking about, from the resident to the water department. So it's the same. So anything that I was telling the residents to do, we got to do the same thing and fight on their behalf, because it's a trickle down.
Yeah.
So if we're not doing that, that ends up in their bill, and then we end up having the same conversation. So once we get these meters in the ground and start measuring that volume, we're going to say, hey, look like you was charging us this amount in 2023 and 2022. Hey, we got these meters. This is the amount that we should be charged, and have those conversations. But most people don't know that, right? And they like to take advantage of those brown communities for not having the proper representation, counting, like knowing that, yes, we know that volume that you had was estimated. Now we have an accurate volume.
Right.
So now let's talk about, so then if they want to do that revenue requirement thing I talked about, that takes that and reduces the amount of the amount of impact that they will have on our community, because they know that we're watching, they know that we know. But when we don't say anything, they don't know that we know. So it's some good stuff, but all that work's got to get done, like now, like it's time.
All right. Well, we are coming to the close of the show. All I got to say on that is, everyone, please be mindful of the construction that's taking place, because if we got to get these meters in the ground, we got to do what we got to do. So we just ask you to be mindful, to be patient, to be understanding, to use your wisdom, and allow for the water department to do what they need to do, so that way we can continue to fight this fight and actually come out on top. Because Highland Park, along with all the other communities, need to be able to do the same thing. So Highland Park can be a great example of how to beat the system. All right. You've been watching the Highland Park Spotlight with your host, Kisha B. Next time, I don't know who I'm going to have next. It's going to be a surprise. We'll see what happens. But I thank you for joining me today in this other side, this studio area. But it was fun. It was informative. And thank you again, Damon, for coming out. It's always a pleasure to have you in studio. And I will catch you guys next time. I'm signing out.
Watkins Broadcasting is going worldwide. Now you can watch Detroit's own WHPR on your TV from anywhere in the world. No matter where you are, you can stay in the know with WHPR TV and Roku. You can get your easy-to-install Roku box from wherever you shop for your entertainment gear. Once your Roku box is connected to your TV and internet, go to the channel store on the home menu of the Roku box. Enter WHPR TV in the search engine and add it to your channels. That's it. That's all you need to get the best in entertainment, news, and talk, no matter where you are. Roku brings all of your favorites to your TV. Netflix, Hulu Plus, Crackle, HBO Go, and now WHPR TV, Detroit Live.
WGPR Detroit HD2.
You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
You thought that was the end.
TV 33 is moving to WHPS TV channel 15.2. Make sure to rescan the channels on your TV. Then go to WHPS channel 15.2 to pick up TV 33 and all of your favorite shows. The move is on, and we want